ladies and gentlemen, to First Christian Church in Pontiac. I'm very glad to be here to speak with you today. I really hope that the Spirit fills your heart, fills your mind with the message that He has put forth. I want to tell you a story to start us out this morning. And this story is about a little girl. She's 5 years old, and she lives with mom. Parents are divorced, and they're on their way to grocery store. You know, it's one of those weeks, payday's on Friday, this is Wednesday, we're counting our pennies, and they get to the grocery store down the lane and go in. We need milk, we need cereal, we better, if we got enough, we'll get some eggs. So they get up to the cash register, and the little girl looks at her mom and says, "Can I have this pack of M&Ms?" And all of a sudden, mom starts counting feverishly her wallet as the cashier is ringing up the groceries. And at that moment, she realized there wasn't enough for a 75-cent pack of M&Ms. So, looks at the little girl and says, "Sorry, baby, not today, but on Friday, we'll get two. We'll get two, and we'll share one with someone else." Now, of course, you know, the disappointment on the little girl's face was just about all that mom could handle. But she never cried, and she never threw a fit. And come Friday, we got two. Yes, we got two. That story seems like a lifetime ago, and yet at other times, it's just like yesterday. When I had to look down at that little girl's face and tell her no, we didn't have enough for a 75-cent bag of candy. Well, I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed some more, because I needed to know that, number one, there was going to be enough money to pay the bills come Friday, that I was going to be able to take care of my daughter at 5 years old, and that I was going to be able to hold it all together. I needed to make sure that I could be what she needed me to be as a mom. Well, came home from work again, a couple of days before payday, several months after this instance, and there sitting on the stoop of our front porch was 2 bags, just like these. 2 bags. And I'm like, did I leave those there? No, I was sure I didn't. So we get out of the car, we go up, and in the bags is cereal, macaroni and cheese, peaches, mandarin oranges, green beans, corn. And I'm thinking to myself, who could have put this out here on my stoop? Who could have put these groceries out here? Well, at that point, I was like, thank you, Lord. Because again, payday is not until Friday. And again, the Lord met our needs. Well, we carry the groceries in. Tears are running down my face as I'm putting things in the cabinet, and all of a sudden, it dawns on me. This box of cereal just happens to be Courtney's favorite box of cereal. There's green beans and there's corn, but there's no peas because she doesn't like canned peas. There's peaches and there's oranges, but there's no pears because she didn't like pears. The person or persons who put those bags of groceries on our front stoop knew what she liked, knew her, knew us. It had to be someone that we were very close to. Someone seen a need and was the answer to a prayer. You know, this congregation, we came to a very, very tough crossroads not too long ago. Probably 7, 8 years ago. And many of you sitting in the pews here, you were part of the sermon. There were meetings, there were lots of conversations. There was not enough money coming into the collection plate to sustain the church. So we had to make a decision. We had to decide, do we keep this building and continue on the path that we're taking? Do we sell parts of the property, parts of the building, parts of the whole building? Do we continue to do church the way that we are doing church? Or do we decide to do something different? Do we decide to make a different path? Of course, there was another option, and that was just to close the doors and stop doing church altogether. What did we do? We started to pray. We asked God for guidance. We asked Him to do things for us that was going to help us make that decision. And we decided as a congregation that we were going to change the way that we do church. It's not going to be about whether or not we have enough money. It's going to be whether or not we can do something for someone else. And we started looking at the community. Where is the needs in our community? Just like someone did for Courtney and I 20-some years ago, they knew that there was a need. And we found several needs. We started our book bag mission. And this past year, we gave away 200 plus book bags full of supplies. That's awesome. We've been doing that for 6, 7 years now. We do Jubilee Christmas. We make blankets. There are things that we as a congregation are doing to support the community, to support our nation, to support each other. What does God want us to do? I want to bring us to our text today. I'm reading from 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 1 through 15. Hear these words. We want you to know, brothers and sisters, about the grace of God that has been granted to the churches of Macedonia during a severe ordeal of affliction. Their abundant joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in wealth of generosity on their part. For as I can testify, they voluntarily gave according to their means, and even beyond their means, begging us earnestly for the privilege of sharing in this ministry to the saints. And this, not merely as we expected, they gave themselves first to the Lord, and by the will of God to us, so that we might urge Titus that as he had already made a beginning, so he should also complete this generous undertaking among you. Now as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in utmost earnestness, and in our love for you, so we want you to excel also in this generous undertaking. I do not say this as a command, but I am testing the genuineness of your love against the earnestness of others. For you know the generous act of our Lord Jesus, that though he was rich, yet for your sakes he became poor, so that by his poverty you became rich. And in this manner I am giving my advice. It is appropriate for you who began last year not only to do something, but even to desire to do something. Now finish doing it, so that your earnestness may be matched by completing it according to your means. For if the eagerness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. I do not mean that there should be relief for others and pressure on you, but it is a question of a fair balance between your present abundance and their present need, in order that there may be fair balance. As it is written, the one who has much did not have too much, and the one who has little did not have too little. May the Lord bless the reading of his holy word. Paul is the writer of this letter to the Corinthians. And he starts out this letter with, hey, I want to tell you about what the church over in Macedonia is doing. They don't have a whole lot. They don't have much. They're living basically in poverty. But guess what? They're getting it done. They're putting their money in. They're putting God first. And then after they put in all that they have to give back to God, they're giving even more to us so that we can continue our ministry as Christ wanted us to do. Titus, he is over in Macedonia at the time of this writing, and he's wanting to do as much work as he possibly can. And that church is making sure that he has the ability to do that, supporting him financially. So, why is Paul writing to the Corinthians then, if Macedonia is doing such an awesome job? It's to shame them. It's to peg what they're doing or what they're not doing against what another church is doing. Have you ever had that moment when your family or somebody says, I wish you would be more like your sister? If your brother can do that, why can't you? That's one of the blessings that Courtney has. She's never had to be compared to a sibling. This shame as motivation. It comes at a point where the Corinthians have already proven that they can do great things. Paul even says in verse 7, now as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, and utmost earnestness, and in our love for you, So we want you to excel also in giving. You can do great things because you have already proven that you can do great things. Now do great things in giving. Verse 8. I do not say this as a command, but I am testing the genuineness of your love against the earnestness of others. I'm testing you in your generosity. I'm putting it out there. Do you love the Lord? Prove it. That's what he's saying. Prove it by giving according to your faith. Giving according to your love. Giving according to your wisdom and your knowledge. He's putting the test out there so you, Corinthians, can say, hey, wait a minute. I love the Lord. I'm going to give just a little bit more. One of the things that Paul always brings into his letters is to remind the people that he is writing to about Jesus. He's telling the Corinthians, Jesus gave all that he had. He gave his life. He gave his life. He became poor. He came down from the heavens where he had everything so that you, his people, can also have everything. The gift that Christ gave to us as his people is more than what we could ever give back. We know that. But if we give of ourselves, of our time, of our talents, of our treasures, in the same fashion that Jesus gave to us, look at what bounty we would have to work with. Stewardship. Stewardship is about not just giving of your money. It's really not about just giving of your time or your talents, your resources. Stewardship is about discipleship. Discipleship is about building relationships. Thinking about that day that I walked up to my front stoop and there were 2 bags of groceries sitting there. They knew what Courtney liked. There was a relationship there that was unspeakable because they not only seen a need, they also knew enough about her that that would be, those resources, that food, would not be wasted. Building relationships with people opens our eyes to the needs of those in our own community, those in our own church, those across the world. Relationships. Building relationships not just with each other, but with God also. That's when he opens our eyes. That's when he opens our hearts to the needs of the world. So you're thinking, we do really well here. Come on, Pastor, look at all the things that we do. 200 plus book bags in 1 year. In the course of doing Jubilee Christmas, we have probably given away tens of thousands of presents to needy children. Awesome job. But if we look at the Corinthians, guess what? They're doing stuff too. They're doing things well also. are they giving according to their faith? It's the reason for this section of Paul's letter. He's challenging them to do more. He's challenging them to give out of love. So where do you fit in? Where do you fit in to this congregation? Where do you see yourselves in this story? Are you a Corinthian or are you a Macedonian? Where do you fit in? Our stewardship campaign this year is based on missions. We wanted to get back to that time where we put everyone else before ourselves. And at that time, the spirituality of this congregation grew to such great heights that we were able to turn around our financial situation. Because we put others first, because we put God first, we were able to do much more. We were able to see the abundance of God's blessings bestowed on this congregation. So the stewardship campaign this year, we're going to get back to those missions. We're going to get back to giving to others. And here's your challenge. Here's your proof. Are you going to pledge? Are you going to prove to God, not to me, to God, that you're giving out of your faith? Are you going to become part of a mission? Are you going to introduce a new mission to us? A need that we may not be seeing yet. This is part of our stewardship campaign. In your newsletter that you received today, there's an opportunity for you to put that you want to be part of an existing mission. Whether it's donation, whether it's your time, whether it's you sitting there talking to people, building relationships. The challenge to you, are you going to become involved? Are you going to help that mission grow so more people can experience the abundance of the Lord? And are you going to increase your giving based on your faith, based on your love for Jesus Christ? Your job as a disciple is to go and spread the word. Your job as a disciple is to give to God first. Your job as a disciple is to build a relationship with each other, with the Lord, and with those within your community. Where do you fit in? Where will you put your money? May the Lord bless each and every one of you. And may the Lord fill your abundance because of your gifts.